Welcome to Jackson Creek Elementary, home of the investigators. At Jackson Creek Elementary, we're whole school avid, operate from culturally relevant practices and the 7 mindsets. The most important thing to know about that is that at Jackson Creek Elementary, we really feel that we're all connected and that we operate from a strength-based perspective, avoiding deficit language like they can't, they don't, these kids, those parents. They're our kids, they're our parents. We call our students scholars. We believe in all of them. We operate from students' funds of knowledge, and we recognize that everybody has something to offer us here at Jackson Creek Elementary. Our practices here at Jackson Creek Elementary are very intentional. We work really hard to systematically work towards understanding more and more about culturally relevant practices. While every teacher comes in on a different level and with different understanding about what culturally relevant teaching is, it's important that we're systematically moving forward, constantly working to understand more and more about how to reach our kids. And the first important thing to do is to learn more about ourselves and what we bring to the classroom in that process. So all that we do here at Jackson Creek is to systematically work towards deepening our understanding so that we can increase the meaningful engagements in our classroom. So you will see in the video a lot of excerpts from classrooms where teachers are engaging students, their scholars, in very critical conversations. You will see children as young as preschool engaging in both English and Spanish, valuing both languages. Speaking of both languages, we recite in La Cache a Mayan poem that means that I am because we are, really saying and signifying that we are connected here at Jackson Creek.
Trini, can you help me recite our school poem?
Sure, I'd love to help. I'll do it in English if you do the other part. Don't forget, investigators, we want you to say it with us.
Tú eres mi ocho.
You are my other me.
If I do harm to you, you're my other me. If I do harm to you,
If I do harm to myself,
Si te amo y respeto.
if I love and respect you. I love and respect myself.
I hope you enjoyed the video and the excerpts you see. They are just samples of our wonderful, wonderful teachers and students. But if you're ever in Columbia, South Carolina, we invite you to Jackson Creek Elementary. We hope you visit at any time.
During our morning routine, I try to incorporate the more important of connection with language. I try to speak in English, I try to speak in Spanish, so my Spanish speakers that don't speak English at all understand what are we doing and they don't feel lost on our activity. I try to encourage their participation, not only answer in English, they can answer in Spanish. And doing this, my English speakers get so motivated to speak in Spanish. It is funny, this situation, because normally the Spanish speaks in English and the English speakers answer in Spanish. This creates a big learning environment in our morning routine. Good. And the last one? Su perro está enfermo. Cheryl, what does that mean in English? My dog is Healthy or sick? Sick. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
We wish you well. We wish you well. On your related day, we wish you well. Deseo mejor, deseo mejor. Todos los días te deseo lo mejor.
Thank you. I think this is very important because normally when somebody came in our class, the students get lost on what are we doing. They don't know what are we doing. Doing this help my students to understand, oh, we are saying good morning, or need to answer numbers, or we need to say something what I am feeling. With this, I think I know my students feel safe. And when the students feel safe, they are ready to learn. They are incorporating our class. They know they are part of the class. Who is my snack helper? How many words are in your sentence? ¿Cuántas? ¿Cuántos dedos tienes? Who is my sprinkler? Can you clap your hands? Bravo, ve a hacer tu trabajo. Go do it. Who is my bathroom helper? Go do it. Who is my caboose? Bravo, deme los 5. Wow. I have one parent from here, from Columbia, South Carolina, that the father was not happy because we have too many Spanish speakers, and he thought the daughter will not learn English as fast as the other class. After 3 weeks, that girl being in our class, the father came to our class, and he said, I was absolutely wrong. She is learning more than what I expect. And he emphasized, she's learning so much English and so much Spanish that they are really, really happy. Good morning, good morning. Let's ready to start today. Let's ready to start today. You did. Now, the more important part of our school family. A comerme esa promesa you make. A comerme esa promesa you make. In our class, in my class, I don't force anybody to speak just English or Spanish. They do free. And what I said before, the funny part is that my English speakers, they are so eager to speak Spanish that in our regular commitments, they answer in Spanish. When I ask, what is your job? And they say, mi trabajo. And they try to speak more. When people come to observe our classroom, they immediately say, I speak Spanish. And they are not from Spanish speakers. But I see my Spanish speakers feel a little shy because they speak Spanish. And that's the reason they don't talk. But when they hear me talking with other friends, they come with me and keep talking and talking, and that's where the learning starts for them.
Alright, so good morning, y'all.
Good morning, Mr. Gibson.
Alright, so we're doing our We Are the World today. Y'all know any other day we do our We Are the World. So we're going to have a deep discussion, and it's all about you guys. So, in the news recently, there was this shooting that happened in Texas. Did anyone heard about that in the news? Have anyone heard anything about that? Alright, so, Eric.
Today we had a Socratic seminar about gun control and just a shooting that just happened in Texas. And it was very interesting because they were able to connect with other shootings, other mass shootings, connect with other issues that may go along with the country, such as police brutality, and also with terrorist attacks and things like that. So it was a very good.
This shooting happened where at? In a what?
Church.
In a church. Did this remind you of anything? So right now I want you to think about what I read to you so far. Think about your feelings. How you feel so far. How do y'all feel? How do you feel? So, we're gonna go around, and if you would like to share, I'm gonna start with Trinity. If you don't, you can pass. If you don't wanna share. Trinity, you wanna start us off?
Sure.
All right, go ahead.
If we're supposed to be talking about what me and
How
my
does it
kids say,
feel? Any questions that you have? Anything you wanna spark up?
well, I thought the paragraph was kind of related to one of the paragraphs that we read because it was talking about how he did a lot of
It goes along with what, even with, we say with the Jackson Creek way, even with the 7 mindsets. So we are connected. How are we connected with these people? What connection do we have? And even it brings in that culturally relevant part with their prior knowledge. What do they bring home? What conversations do they have with their parents? And I think it gives them a sense of the respect that I have for them as humans. And then
So, Diamond, how do you feel?
So I'm so upset cause you got a Navy person that's killing people, but my dad told me that if you from the Navy, you're supposed to protect people, especially kids.
And we talked about like Colin Kaepernick and different things like that. And we talked about President Donald Trump for just things inside of school. I think we should know what's going on in the world. We do that. I think it's like a way. It's like we're sharing things, and like everybody gets to say what they think. And it's like a serious moment in our class because our class is like really fun and energetic, and we like to like have fun with it. So when we do that, it's everybody's serious and things like that.
I think that the only people who should be able to have guns are police officers and, them too, and people who have license to have it.
So let's think about this. So remember, we learned about 3 different important things.
Like, when they say, like, people have mental issues, why did they, like, give them guns? Like they could have prevented what happened with Billy Ruth. If you had a mental issue, he should not have been able to get it.
Control, how basically innocent people were getting killed, and how the church got shut up in Texas and Las Vegas situation, how the man was in the hotel and he It kind of made me angry because innocent people were getting killed and they didn't even very help. I found it very helpful because I got to express me. If you had a family member in that church, like, you would have been hurt, like if it was your mom, dad, granddad, somebody.
Those amendments of Reconstruction helped certain groups of people during that time. But y'all raising your hand like y'all know what I'm about to say.
No, we haven't finished.
So there's this amendment, the Second Amendment, that gives people the right to own guns. So if you tell people that people can't have guns, then it takes away their constitutional right. Then that goes back to what we talked about with Colin Kaepernick when we said freedom of speech, which is also another thing that's in the amendment, the First Amendment. So
It is helpful when, like, we can give ideas for our questions, like, we can share it, and we can give ideas for others who do not know the answer of the questions. It can be helpful, and they can, the other teachers should do this, like, because they could get, the children could get more knowledge, and they could just share their ideas and questions they have for the class, and if they do not do the We Are the World, and children cannot share their questions and they cannot get the ideas or the answers, and they can get the knowledge of that particular lesson or article.
In my church, we have a police and the security guards inside the church, and then like the people that do the cars like if somebody try to get out. But like,
and then as learners, and it's like I value their opinions, I value their conversation that they have, and I think that's the main thing. I'm surprised at mainly just at how everyone likes to get involved. I believe at first when I started, I thought there may be out of the 20, I believe probably about 5 would. That was my I assumed that 5 would, but after a while, I realized that this was a whole class discussion, and then that's when I was no longer surprised because they see it every day in the news, and it's kind of like, they see it, so you just need to bring that attention in the classroom.
Should have one, but what if they're not doing their job? What if they're doing the wrong thing?
They gonna get retaliated.
So then that goes back into the police officers doing the wrong thing. That goes back to the conversation we had about what?
Yayande is the capital of Cameroon, so that is our call for today. So when I say Cameroon, you say Yayande. Yayande. So that helps us to remember. So now what you're going to do, you talked with your partners about a time when you experienced something that was fair or unfair. And so now you're going to go into your...
We're working on a project that is bridging an experience that we had together over the course of a month in Cameroon with the students' interests, needs, and academic standards here in the United States, specifically in Columbia, South Carolina. What Ms. Monroe and I have decided to do is try to tie social justice issues into the learning experiences of our students by looking at not just social justice issues in Cameroon, but also social justice issues here in the United States, and look at how these different issues also impact the students' daily lives, even though it may have been something that occurred in some other part of the United States. And so we've had a lot of discussions. We have tried to bring in the students' own lives and ways that they have experienced what they have considered situations that have been fair or unfair, and then look at that more broadly as to how does that relate to issues that impact them that they don't even realize impact them as students, that we may look at as adult issues which impact them greatly.
What else did we say? A leader should what?
Fair.
Hold on, class.
Yes.
What were the ideas we came up? What else did we say a leader should be?
Have a growth mindset.
Have a growth mindset, but let's go back to the ones that we need to write on the board before we go to growth mindset.
Fair.
We said fair.
And unfair.
No, we want a leader to be fair. Oops, that should look like an R.
A real
There we go. Okay, so a leader should be responsible, a leader should be accountable, a leader should be fair, and a leader, we said, should have what kind of ideas? Good ideas.
When teaching social studies, connecting those topics that we talk about in social studies to how it impacts our students of all different backgrounds. So when we're thinking about Reconstruction and we're talking about the different amendments and talking about gaining citizenship, the right to vote, we bring those things in. How would that impact you today? Are some of those same topics and issues still going on when we talk about voting? And the answer to that question is yes. So we try to bring all of those different practices in, making sure students see themselves in history. Sometimes those things are not in the history book, so depending on the topic, making sure that all backgrounds are represented in the content that we're teaching.
Remember our prompt? Has there ever been a time when you or someone you know have been treated unfairly? What was the situation and what could have made the situation more fair? So what you're going to do now, you are going to add your response on Seesaw.
But we also wanted to take a look at Cameroon and the United States and not just focus on the issues of social justice, but also what are ways that people celebrate around the world? So in Cameroon in particular, how do we in the United States celebrate? How is it similar? How is it
Having
different?
a growth mindset about their citizens. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to think about what that would mean if one of our leaders said, if you don't say nice things about me, then I don't think you should be able to say anything at all that would be broadcast
to other citizens? Okay, I want you to think about why that's not a good idea, because let me tell you what happens.
We had to really work hard to build background. As far as my trip to Cameroon, the experience was a fantastic experience. It made you appreciate the things that we have and how grateful we should be, but it also helped to build my background knowledge as far as how I wanted to present this information to my students. So we look at it from the point of, creating an inquiry-based project. And so some of the things we're going to do is we're comparing just some of the very basic things right now, our celebrations. We're talking about the fact that how the government controls a lot of things such as the internet and what's fair and unfair. And that's some of what you saw today, students talking about what's fair and unfair. So we're taking it from a level that they understand as far as, what's something that you've experienced that's been unfair, whether it's at home or at school, and then tying that into leadership and government in Cameroon and other aspects of their lives.
Africa and Asia, Africa and Asia, Australia, Australia. We can only name five, we only name five continents of the world.
Begin this with you. But before we can paint, I kind of want to go over what you talked about last week when we were drawing on our paper bag. So, I'm going to go through a few slides right quick. Okay. So remember that we looked at a few examples like this. Remember we looked at this? Okay. Can you guys tell me, what do you remember when we were talking about the difference between A and B?
Okay, my name is Nicole Love. I'm the art teacher at Jackson Creek Elementary. I was teaching third graders about a mop bark painting, which is a process that was used a very, very long time ago during the Mesoamerican civilizations in Mexico. They used bark from trees and turn it into paper. And instead of our regular white paper that we have, we actually see that the Mesoamericans turned their paper into like brown paper. So they would paint on that paper. They would, I guess, just write on that paper. So we learned about that, and then we decided to make our own designs based off of their designs that they made. And then after that, we took paper bags and started drawing our idea designs onto the paper bags.
Where A still shows that the bark is being painted on. And were the artists painting throughout the entire piece of paper? No, it wasn't. Okay, they left a lot of the paper showing. So that's what we need to keep in mind, that when we are painting today, are you going to paint your entire background? No, because we're being inspired by the Mesoamericans to use a mop bark paper. Okay, so we're not going to be painting the entire background. You see what I did, Christopher?
Yes.
Did I go outside of my lines? No. Now, I have 3 lines right here inside of my petal that I'm going to go over for right now, but later on, I'm going to go back over with a different color, with yellow. So that's the
for having culturally relevant lessons in my classroom, because I know that there's a diverse population in the school. So I wanted to make this lesson culturally relevant to some of the Hispanic students that are in my classroom. There's a large population of Hispanic students. I just wanted to make a lesson that comes from Mexico relevant to my Hispanic
It was
Who's gonna be my bird? It matters to me. It matters a lot. Oh, I've got too much.
Now I'm going to use purple. How? I have to use purple. I'm the only person who keep getting too much. I just no, I'm making my red robin. Because that's her favorite color. I'm gonna put my son with orange.
We found it very interesting to be painting on paper bags because that's what we used. So I think they enjoyed it, and they would definitely do it again if they could.
Yeah, this one's beautiful. That one, I need a. I like this one better.
My song and move with me. Funga alapia, ashe, ashe. 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 Bum bum bum. Bum bum bum. Bum bum bum. Was based on a Navajo greeting of peace. The connections that we made as a class included that the Navajo tribe was a tribe found in the American Southwest. And we connected it to greetings of peace. I feel like children are wired to play, and so in our music class we created a movement game that was based on the greeting of peace. The lesson was culturally relevant in that the students in my classroom were making connections to other cultures, in this particular case the Navajo Native American tribe. At the very beginning the students were slightly uncomfortable, and that's to be expected. So I scaffolded them in by introducing one new skill at a time. I would begin with the text, then I would sing the text, they would listen, then they would repeat after me, and then we would sing it together, and then I began to add body percussion. Listen to it. Hail, hail, Ipsaniah, 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 hail, hail. Hey, yo! Hey, yo! Hey, yo! Ipsaniah. 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 Hail. 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 Hail Ipsaniah. Hail Ipsaniah. The children reacted to the lesson with engagement, but also with curiosity, and sometimes curiosity comes from just being uncomfortable with something new. And so I began my process by scaffolding them, just saying the text, then singing the text, then they repeated after me, and then I added body percussion that would be characteristic of the greeting of peace, which included patting on the laps and then clapping. The patting on the laps prepared them for drumming, and the clapping prepared them for rhythm sticks. And then we added the movement around the room, and then, without me knowing, we just came up with this idea that two groups would be coming together and greeting each other with peace. This time, you're going to move and sell space in the room, and every time you hear the drum, you're going to often happen in a music development classroom is that the movement that is so a part of music making can open the doors for a lot of different interpretations. And I find that the children's interpretation is usually better than mine. And so one interpretation was that a group be on one side of the room and then another group be on the other side of the room. And then as they sang and as they played together, they would come together, showing and demonstrating coming together in peace.
Singing.
Our ending position.
Singing.
So let's think of an ending position. What's a good ending position?
I know.
Yes, you haven't given an idea yet today. Freeze! We are quiet. Waterfall. Yes.
I'm thinking when we end.
Waterfall. Yes.
It's gonna all be around the thing, the drums, and then.
How many times should we sing our song before we decide to stop?
4.
4. I think that'd be good. And then,